Are you doing the introductions?
I mean, unless you want to do it right now.
No, it's all you.
Okay. Hi, welcome to another episode of the Massachusetts Pirate Party News. I'm joined today by Joe and Steve. How are the two of you doing?
Doing all right.
Couldn't complain.
I'm happy to hear that. So we just last weekend we attended the Boston Anarchist Book Fair. We had a great time. You can check out masspirates.org to see the new flyer we put together. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Mickey. Thank you, Alex, and all the other folks who came by and were helped us at the table. So, news for us, we're going to have a survey out soon planning the January conference and when we're going to hold that. So if you haven't signed up for our email, please, there's a link in the description. Please do so and you'll get a notification of that this week. Coming up on Tuesday, the Joint Committee on the Judiciary of the Massachusetts Legislature is going to have a hearing with a lot of bills, such as an act relative to the free flow of information, access to justice, establishing an Internet Bill of Rights, yet again, trying to expand the wiretapping law beyond organized crime to, I guess, disorganized crime. And that's going to be Tuesday, November 21st at 1 p.m. It will be in room A2 and will also be virtual. So if you'd like to testify, if you would like to either send email testimony or would like to appear in person, we will put a link below and with all the details, just so you know. To register to testify virtually, sorry about this, you must provide contact information on the linked form by 5 p.m. on November 19th. So sorry, that date has passed, but you can still email testimony and you can show up at the legislature. So with that, we've got a couple of points we want to talk about. One, there was an article that came out in Cape Cod Times entitled, "This Massachusetts Police Practice Skews Racial Profiling Stats." And so in a nutshell, apparently police are choosing to, or police officers, some subset of a small or a large quantity, basically, well, actually, so they say roughly 28% of stops with someone with a Hispanic last name or Latino last name, police identified the driver as white in their citations. And that's going to skew the data. And so it's going to make it harder to determine whether police are selecting people, selecting Latinos disproportionately because, 1/4 of those stops are put in a different bucket. Thoughts?
So yeah, I think this is a good argument for photo enforcement, where we should be having speed cameras doing this sort of stuff rather than people. For one, it's for actually a whole bunch of these reasons. One, a speed camera will do uniform enforcement; it won't profile. we have nationally a problem with the number of motor vehicle related deaths in the United States. Cars kill lots of people, and speed is a factor of that. And finally, speed cameras do not carry guns. So in Massachusetts, this is, there's, I don't know the full story behind this, but photo enforcement is not legal. And I hope, at some point that will change in the future.
Now, if I may, gentlemen, why is this such a bad thing that they're skewing these numbers?
So the idea, potential by marking, categorizing the individuals as whites, there's a potential, and I'm going to say potential because we don't know for sure, that there could be profiling going on. The police could be issuing an abnormally high number of tickets to Hispanic drivers, but recording the information in a way that obscures that. That's the issue, I think.
Yeah, I mean, my concern about relying on cameras, and recently Somerville has a surveillance ordinance, and one of the things that it requires is if the police or traffic or whatever government agency within the city government wants to use technology that has privacy implications, they have to put forward why they want to do it, how much it's going to cost, so that the city council can choose whether to approve it or not. And one of the things they did was, some may have noticed, there's this little pole that sits in by the Davis Square MBTA bus stop, or one of them at least, and it's got a camera. And they put that in a while ago. I'm not sure quite what they're using it for, but previous to this, but now they want to be able to record anyone who goes and parks for any period of time in the bus stop, and then give them a ticket. And, to Steve's point, sure, if anyone does it, they'll be caught. But at the same time, police are lots of places. And do we want to replace all the places they could be with surveillance cameras?
I mean, it's a question of privacy, too. I mean, yes, you're in a public place, and the expectation of privacy is not necessarily there. But how much do we want to go into a Big Brother nanny state?
So my question. This is the Holland Street side of the Davis Square T station.
It's the Elm, right by what used to be Be Fresh and is no longer Be Fresh.
Okay, I'm actually kind of okay with this. As long as, there are retention policies and sharing policies, and basically as long as the data governance is in place. People parking in bus stops screws up traffic, it screws up transit, and it makes our public transportation run even worse than it does already. I think this is a reasonable, with appropriate safeguards in place, I think that's a reasonable thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I sure, one off here and there seems reasonable, but a surveillance camera here, a surveillance camera there, pretty soon you're the United Kingdom, right? So,
Unfortunately, I do have to. Sorry for interrupting, Jamie.
Yeah, no, go. That's fine.
I was going to say, I second the Jamie on that. I mean, it's a slippery slope. Whereas a simple police action, in order to the police doing their job of ticketing and towing people who are not parking where they should be, and, I mean, that's the part of their job. So, That's been their job for as long as I can remember. Is when people park in bad spots, they get it moved. So,
Well, clearly, we just need teleportation devices that'll then teleport your car somewhere else.
yeah, we have those. They're called tow truck.
Fair point. Takes them a little while to get there.
Sometimes they magically appear. Like I parked somewhere and boom, my car's gone.
So shout out to our fellow pirates in the European Union. There was a bill that was before the European Parliament called the Child Sexual Abuse Regulation. One of the things that it would have required was the ability to capture and store all chat communication. And so the bill was dubbed chat control by various Pirate Party EU parliamentarians, as well as others. And thankfully, due to the efforts of the German and Czech pirate parties who have representation in the European Parliament, that bill failed. So we will not have, thankfully, yet another country deciding that people cannot communicate cannot communicate privately for the children. So, and then Steve, you said something is going on at one of those social media sites.
Oh yeah, the social media site formerly known as Twitter. Yeah, apparently their owners gotten them in trouble again. And actually, I'm not sure that there's probably a chicken and egg element to this, but Elon Musk, Twitter's current owner, has sort of taken the position that Nazis are okay. He's okay with Nazis. And so he has no problem with people posting Nazi imagery, swastikas, images of Hitler, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera on the site. Well, it turns out that some of the major advertisers on X, the ones that are still advertising on X, are not cool with this. A group called Media Matters has collected a bunch of screenshots where basically, you have ads from like Apple, from IBM, large companies showing up to posts talking about what a great job Hitler did. Now, on top of that, Musk himself chimed in on a little conversation going on his social network and sort of, promoted these views. And, as of in the last couple of days, IBM and Apple have both pulled all of their ad spend on Twitter. I do kind of feel for their CEO a little bit, Linda Yaccarino. She was brought on board. She's got a background in advertising and media, and she was sort of like brought on board to, help encourage advertisers to come back. And then her boss goes and does this shit. Yeah, I know there's some ex-Twitter folks who were working on on a couple of new initiatives for social media, and it's like I hope they succeed. As someone who basically left Twitter because a lot of the people I followed had also left, and B, because the owner's kind of a Nazi.
Well, if it's any consolation, at least he let Joe Rogan shoot his truck with an arrow. That did happen. He's all buddy with Joe Rogan, which, I used to love Joe Rogan's content, but as time has gone on, I've less and less seen either one of those people as a normal human being. I mean, you think about either one of those guys, and they're not normal.
Yeah, I
Maybe
mean,
they're
Musk bought Twitter for what it was at $44 billion, and the estimated market cap on that company is less than half of that. So he's in a year he's managed to burn through $20 billion. And I could only imagine that the folks who like helped him finance this are not happy about it.
well, in the terms of the financing, he actually did some pretty dirty politics when it comes to like the landlords. He stopped. One of the things he didn't do is he hasn't paid rent on any of the former Twitter spaces, like knowing that the landlords couldn't just replace him, but would have to come to the table and like do a renegotiation, making them lose tons of money. So, I mean, when it comes to business, he's got some dirty tricks up his sleeve, and he uses every single one of them. You know,
I mean, you don't become rich by spending money. Right? Isn't the point to save?
I feel like a dirty Andrew Tate quote coming on. No, Jamie, bad Jamie.
Yeah, I mean, I think the less said, the better. I mean, it's like, wasn't it 2016 or 2015 when various big advertisers were like, hey, our stuff is being shown next to Nazis. We're not comfortable with that. Please stop. And Twitter was like, oh, yeah, good point. We'll deal with that. What's old is new again.
Apparently, Elon did not see that coming. Grown.
So, Joe, why don't you tell us about H83? Speaking of stuff before the legislature.
Oh, social media disasters. Well, there's been some things and some laws passed in Massachusetts that I do not agree with, but they're finally kind of pushing one that I do agree with, which is Bill H. 83. It's current. It's not. It's just made through the House, so it's not law yet. But what this will do is give individuals who have had data breach from major companies. This is one of many things, so I encourage everyone to read through it. But it will give us civil action, whereas if we have our information compromised in a way that could be harmful to us, we have legal recourse to take on and sue the companies, which is one of the many things. And so we'd be able to bring civil cases to say, like a big company, like Twitter, for just sharing our data against our will, and actually hold some of these bigger companies accountable. And it just opens the whole can of worms where these companies who just broker our data, take our data, run with our data, and gives us legal action or a legal remedy in order to seek a tort against them for our information being stolen on their platform, whether people are exposing us or what have you. So, it's a small drop, but with so many people being able to, at least in Massachusetts, be able to exercise that is a major win for the data privacy world. Um, and for a fact the courts aren't going to want to deal with massive class action lawsuits. So these companies are going to have to come up with much better data and security mechanisms real quick or get sunk. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's two. Oh, sorry, Joe. Go. Please finish up.
It's a diamond in the rough, so it still has more polish, I'm sure, to happen. But and at least that's what I've taken from this bill. I could be a little bit off base because again, it's still being worked on, it's still being done, but it's a major win in the data privacy world.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's sort of two sides to this. One is like, data breaches where someone leaves, a data file in an unsecured Amazon bucket, or that's kind of like what used to be the most common example. Unfortunately, it's not. Amazon has improved their default settings so that things aren't public by default. good idea. But the other is, in terms of social media, I think Facebook is actually the bigger culprit where, they have policies in place. They have companies who user APIs to access user data that blatantly violate them, or there is a history of companies blatantly violating access, violating sort of the policies around accessing data at an API level. And, it's kind of nod, nod, wink, wink. Well, we're not going to tell anyone about it. And it would, it for consumers though, this does sound like it could be potentially a pretty cool thing.
I'd be
Well,
curious to see a comparison between this law and what it does and other like California and Virginia, and I think there's at least another state that has data privacy law. It'd be good to see, what is added and what is removed.
Well, another thing too is like data breaches, like what happened with Expedian, what happens with PayPal all the time, and all those like financial apps, or just the data brokers in general. It gives the common person a remedy to exercise or to seek remedy for a tort that's been done against them. For those who don't speak legal speak per se, a tort. So if Jamie were to sell my data online, he would cause what is called a tort, a TORT, against me, which would cause actual harm, that provable harm, that I could then seek financial compensation, i.e., a civil lawsuit. That's a tort, and so it's a very common term, especially amongst lawyers. And so it's something that would allow you and I to go out and make sure that our data is not only protected, but if our trust has been breached and our data is just taken care of willy-nilly, it gives us something that we can actually sink our teeth into. And then as the general public, be able to bring down some of these bigger untouchables. So, good stuff.
And just for those of you out there who are choosing to gather data on people, just remember, if you don't have it, it can't be leaked. So with that, thank you, Steve and Joe, for joining me, as always, for the Massachusetts Pirate Party News. We run these every other week or so, give or take. You can find us at masspirates.org. There are links in the description, and we want you as a pirate to join us. So sign up for our mailing list and, the usual like, share, subscribe, that type of stuff. So we hope you have a wonderful week, and we look forward to talking with you hopefully next weekend. Take care.
Like, share, and subscribe.
And we are clear.